Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So, we are playing a deck that I have been looking forward to for quite some time, even though it's actually been out for quite some time. And that is going to be Vanquish Soul. So, when the selection pack with this very first came out, I remember pulling, I think, like one Mad Love and maybe two Sacred Souls. And at the time, I was like, you know what? I don't really want to, like, commit to going all in on building this deck just right now. I don't remember what else was out, but I know I had other stuff I wanted to work on. However, now that Vanquish Soul has had a secrets pack, we are definitely a lot more excited that this deck is so much more accessible. And even though the pack like just came out, I end up opening so few of the newest selection pack because I needed so few cards from it that I end up with more than enough gems to dump into the Vanquish Soul secret pack. And after dipping into my URs a bit and spending a few of the event gems, we are here. And I gotta say, I like this deck exactly as much as I thought I would. It is a ton of fun. So, for those who are not familiar with Vanquish Soul, because it's not a deck that you actually see like too often on ladder anymore, this is what I would kind of consider to be almost like a combo control hybrid deck. Like, the deck has quite a few lines that can easily vary depending on the board state. However, in terms of the like overall game style, you're not often going to really, or hardly ever from what I've seen in both experience playing this deck, you're hardly ever going to OTK your opponent with this deck. It is more about a war of attrition, right? And either grinding your opponent out of resources or sometimes just burning them down with stuff like the Borger and the Vanquish Soul Snow Devil. This allows you, both these cards actually allow you to do quite a bit of burn damage, especially the Borger. Like, think about this, right? If you summon Borger on turn 1 and use it, that's 1500. These effects are all usable during both you and your opponent's turn, right? So then on your opponent's turn, you burn for another 15. That's already 3k, and your opponent's at 5,000. If your Borger lives through to the next turn, you can burn for another 15, and now you've already taken out more than half your opponent's life points. So it adds up pretty quickly. Yeah, I think this deck is really cool. Like I said, I really like the play style of it. This is kind of my take on the list here. There's quite a few things that you can play in this deck. One of the tech cards that I was kind of looking forward to trying but didn't ultimately find room for was DD Crow. I think that DD Crow has a lot of potential to have some uses in this format, sniping stuff like, you know, the Promethean Princess, or maybe a Flamberge in the yard, possibly the Fire King Haigu Runix, maybe stuff of that nature, right? And, or even, you know, against Rescue Ace, it's not bad to banish some of the Rescue Ace cards out of the graveyard. That way they don't have enough to special, like, Turbulence or something, right? It's kind of niche in that situation, but could be applicable. However, I just ultimately thought that Triple Attack was going to be a little bit better. I know that this deck can struggle a little bit going second, so I wanted to give a tool that was going to help in that regard, but of course was also still fairly useful going first here. There are a couple of other cards that you don't really need to play in this deck. Shifter is actually among them. Believe it or not, even though this is a deck you often see Shifter in, you generally prefer not to play under it, in my experience anyway. Actually, well, to be fair, I haven't had a hand where I've opened or played Shifter yet. However, this is just from what I've heard of other people talking about the deck, right? And I mean, it's not hard to tell, too. This is a graveyard, at least somewhat oriented strategy, particularly using Rock of the Vanquisher to kind of... This is one of the ways that you maintain your resource loop, right? Is by adding back, like, your raisins, so you can get more searches, and then pop on your opponent's turn, and you can't really do that before your stuff is getting banished. So, that said, this deck is, like, just able to play it under the Shifter just enough that it's worth running it. I think very much so, of course, in this meta for sure. To that end of Graveyard Hate, we are also playing Ghost Spell. Ghost Spell is, of course, also good in this deck because it is Earth attribute. We are similarly playing Kraykara, not only because it's good, but because it's also fire. And that's why you can kind of get away with playing certain cards in this deck. Really any monster that's Fire, Dark, or Earth, you of course want those in your hand to be activating your Vanquish Soul effects, right? Cashier Wiseheart might look kind of weird in a list like this, where it's like, well, you only have Fenrir, and that's basically just being, the Fenrir is basically just searching the Rise Heart. You don't even have like any of the Reich 7s or anything. What's the point of even playing Rise Heart? Well, the point is honestly just to have a fire monster to reveal. And that might sound kind of weird, but it's like, Fenrir is already a really solid card in its own right, and also Earth, by the way. And the fact that it adds a monster that you can use to activate so many of your very relevant Vanquish Soul effects, right? I think that ultimately makes it quite worth the slot. But again, like I said, you could play DD Crows. Oh, another optional card actually is the Dust Devil. I wanted to include it just to try it out, but I did notice that it was actually in the minority of builds of this card saw play. I think about 44% from what I recall from the data I looked at, but still a pretty good control tool. It's pretty much Book of Eclipse, but per the number of Vanquish Soul monsters you have on the board, and of course doesn't give your opponent the draws. Snow Devil, like I touched on too, is also a very good control tool, having the ability to board wipe if you have all three of Dark, Earth, and Fire. It can sometimes take some pretty you know, deliberate planning in order to make sure you have a Dark, Earth, and Fire in hand, but honestly, the best way to do that is just the best way to get your plays going in general, which is to start that resource loop I mentioned earlier with Raisin and the Rock of the Vanquisher. This deck doesn't have like set in stone combo lines, I would say, but we are going to see games, including the first one, where I'll point out some play patterns when I go first and how I do that and all that fun stuff, right? So the extra deck for this deck is really, funnily enough, not terribly important aside from Rock of the Vanquisher, right? We have a full playset of these because this is the only in-archetype extra deck monster. Actually, something really unique about Vanquish Soul is that they're almost entirely a main deck archetype, but Rock is a very good Link 1 monster. Again, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, it's your resource loop. For the rest of the cards, a lot of them are fairly generic. Like, you know, I have, for example, Battle and Boxer King Dempsey, and you might think, ugh, a UR I don't have, yet another one for Vanquish Soul, which I will say this archetype is a lot of URs, because it's mostly a main deck archetype, and, you know, your one extra deck monster that you play is actually an SR, and a lot of the URs you do play multiple copies of, but you only need 2 of each Mad Love and Caesar Valius. I mean, you could play 3 Mad Love, that's also fine, but you can get away with 2 of it. Well, 2 Caesar Valius is right. 2 Mad Love, from what I've seen, is actually played in the majority of builds, but you do need 3 Raisin and 3 Sacred Soul as well. It's a total of 11, which isn't horrible, but can be quite a bit. But Dempsey, I would not say is required. It's just an option to be able to potentially search Raisin if you have 2 level 4s, and you need to do that for some reason. Abyss Dweller, similarly, is a generic rank 4 UR, but you don't have to play this. I just played it because, again, it's a good generic rank 4, so why not? We have a Zodiac line. Borbo is to go into Zeus if you need to. We, of course, have Baguska, and then some generic links to round things out. Again, the extra deck itself doesn't really matter. That's why we played Prospin, indeed. I do Prosper for 6 in this deck, and I think that is worth it. So I am pretty new to the deck overall, but I think that it's not that difficult of a deck to pick up. You just have to keep your resource loop in mind, and especially you have to just keep making sure that you are searching the right attributes and or adding them from grave to hand with Rock and or bouncing them from field to hand to make sure you need to activate the given effect that you need at any given time, right? I think keeping track of that is probably the most skill testing part of this deck. So that's all I have to say on the list. Let's break it down card by card, and then we will see some duels. We are on 1 Cray Card of Incarnate, 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 2 Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, 1 Cashier Riseheart, 3 Vanquish Soul Raisin, 1 Vanquish Soul Pantera, 2 Vanquish Soul Dr. Madlove, 2 Vanquish Soul Xiaolong, 2 Dimension Shifter, 1 Cashier Fenrir, 3 Vanquish Soul Heavy Borger, 2 Vanquish Soul Caesar Valius, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Troll Tactics Talent, 1 Pot of Prosperity, 3 Stake Your Soul, 1 Infernal Arms Durandal, 1 Pressured Planet Raitsoth, 1 Vanquish Soul Dust Devil, 3 Infinite Permanents, and then 1 Vanquish Soul Snow Devil. That's going to be our main deck. For the extra 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Zodiac Borbo, 1 Zodiac Shakanine, 1 number 41 Baguska, the terribly tired Tapier. We got 1 Battle and Boxer King Dempsey, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, 3 Rock of the Vanquisher, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Hita the Fire Charmer Ablaze, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 SP Little Knight, and then finally 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. That'll do it for our list. Let's see some duels. Okay, so these games are all in the WCS qualifier event. As such, I don't remember off the top of my head what each of my opponents is playing right from the get-go. But we are going to watch these games in the order that I played them, and this is actually my first ever game, period, playing Vanquish Soul. Which I gotta say, not a bad hand for a first ever game, right? Gonna lead with Rate South for Fenrir, summon the Fenrir F to add the Rise Heart. I didn't really bother looking up a combo guide or anything, because like I've played against this deck enough that I know what's going on here. I can raise in for Xiaolong. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that card's name, by the way. But anyway, yeah, Xiaolong summon itself, raise it into Rock F, add the Raisin back to hand. This is why Cast Share Rise Heart is so good, because now you can reveal both of the fires, including the Rise Heart. I decided to add Snow Devil here, although, I don't know, I should have added, or Dust Devil. I added Dust Devil, but I should have added Snow Devil, because I really could have just added Heavy Borger here, instead of Caesar Valles, and then had all 3 attributes set up anyway, but... yes, this opponent's going to be on Sword Soul. I'm going to use Maxi against the Vishuda. Opponent's going to use the Called By. Now, while I don't think I did too bad of a job setting up my board on turn 1, I could have played it better here. For example, look at me, summoning the Raisin right now for no reason, and also into the middle column. I really should have waited. Well, really, I should have put it down here, and then that way I could have gotten rid of the Monk of the Tenyi, or... even just waited to see what zone Vishuda went into, right? So, yeah. Although, to be fair, if I had tried to do it on the Vishuda, they would have used Heavenly Dragon Circle, like they were doing here anyway. So, but then I still would have had the Fenrir F, and yeah. That's a pretty big blunder, honestly. But like I said, it's my first game. It's my first game with this deck. And I literally, as soon as I placed it down, too, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to... I don't know if there's a phrase or a word for that, where you don't realize you've made a mistake until like until the moment that it's too late to fix it. I'm really good at that. I'm really good at realizing I've made a mistake the moment it is too late to fix it. But I was hoping the token pop would be enough here, but they get to go Ecclesia into Taya anyway. Because, of course, we have more monsters and then they can still special the Ecclesia from hand. So, they still get to make synchro plays. However, I did notice that they were taking quite a bit. Obviously, in the replay, this doesn't show, but these plays weren't as instantaneous as they seem. Our opponent really was thinking here. I remember this in particular. They were really thinking... Oh, you know what, though? You know what? I remember why they were thinking. It's because... And you might be wondering, well, Hex, why aren't you summoning the Borger? Why haven't you, like, done that and burned yet? The reason is that I was using the Borger to bluff Nib, right? Like, at a certain point, after I summoned the Valius, I just toggled off. But then, at around this point in the duel, right, when they do the Long Yawn and the token, I started toggling back on. I tried to make them think I had Nib to see if it would affect their play. And maybe that is why they took so long between plays. But, again, especially when trying to figure out if they wanted an 8 or a 10, I think there's a part of me that wonders if they were trying to decide if they need to go for Baron or not. But they do go for the Bashia here. And then they end up making a 10 anyway. But I believe they are locked, right? Did they use that Ashina earlier? I can't remember. I know we saw it at one point. Yeah, I think they might have. But here I'll summon the Borger. I should have summoned the attack, but well, no, not here. It didn't really matter. Yeah, because the attack reduction will put it below Bashia anyway. So we will summon Borger and do the burn damage, but you'll notice here in a moment, yep, it wasn't even a concede. It was a time limit win. So I think this game probably would have been a win for me even without that. Because of just how many more like resources we have in the opponent, all these cards in hand, especially the triple tactics talent. Like, it would have been so easy for me to like get them in a situation where they Qi Xiao and then Sheng Ying, and then I just take their Sheng Ying, and then it's like, I think it's just super easy to come back from there. So But yeah, it's one of the things about this deck, being able to toggle those quick effects again, just kind of bluffing in a Biru here. I don't have any confirmation of if that did anything, but it might have very easily contributed to the time limit win. We do have some more games to watch, so let's see the next one. This happens every single Duelist Cup season, where I'm like, I go to click on these replays and I'm like, yeah, I get to talk a little bit about the opponent's deck at first, and then nope, I don't remember it all because the game doesn't show me. So that's all good though. Here we do take the first turn. I'm gonna lead with the Stake Your Soul, but honestly, and I thought this mid game too, like, it wasn't even because I got Ash Blossomed. I do think I should have led with normal summoning Dr. Madlove first, because you're going to see here that they do have, yeah, an Imperm as well. So in that regard, I don't know. If I normal summon Madlove, there is a chance they might have just used Ash Blossom and not really thought about it, and then I could have potentially used Stake Your Soul for, like, Raisin. To be fair, they then could have Impermed the Raisin. So would it have really made a difference? Who knows? But gonna use Rock to add back the Madlove, and that's really about all I got. But oh, you know what? This game, yep, it's against Salamangreat, I remember. So they lead with the Gazelle, send to Spinny, Gazelle F. I'm gonna chain the Max C here. I am kind of banking on this Max C, and thankfully they don't have a response to it, because I don't really have too much going on in my hand, and I gotta live through this turn to be able to really do anything here. They do have a Maxi of their own that they're going to use when I go for the Rock effect. By the way, they were threatening to go to Battle Phase here, so I'm going to special the Madlove, and oh, I forgot they conceded that early. I thought they passed, well, I should have known they didn't pass back to me because it's a 2-turn game, but yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is like, what, level 12, 13, or whatever in the Duelist Cup, wherever you start when you finish in Master, so yeah, there's not really any punishment for conceding. Kind of like being in Master 5 for some of the other deck profiles we've had and the quick concedes there. But I know there is a 5-turn game coming up, and I think there's one other 2-turn game. Let's see. I think the 2-turn game, whatever. Let's do the 2-turn game, and then we'll end on the 5-turn one. How about that? Let's go into the next one. Okay, it looks like that's the order I played these in anyway. Because I said at the top, I was like, but I said I'd go in the order that I played them in, and then I kind of realized, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think they care. I think you just want to watch the duels. When you're the one, like, doing the creation of the content, it's so easy to get wrapped up in stuff like that when you gotta remind yourself, like, that's not something that anybody's gonna care about, like, what order these games are played in. I don't think people care. So Ash Blossom is, yeah, gonna get used on Raisin here, but we already have both Xiaolong and Borger. So we have, like, everything already we need to do our full kind of turn 1 setup here. Gonna use the Rock. Oh, they have the Veiler, but actually that doesn't matter either. That might seem like it matters on the surface, but we can still set up everything we need to here. So what I'm gonna do is set the Imperm, pass over to the opponent, and yeah, I don't get my searches right away off the Xiaolong, right? But here, the opponent's gonna Foolish Rail send the, oh, it's Pendulum, right? Because they're sending the Supreme King Dragon. Dragon F, I'm going to use Imperm on it to make sure they didn't get the search, right? Okay, so now, yeah, they normal summon the other Supreme King and then link off for Electromite, if I recall correctly. Yes, yep. But I can still do all the disrupting I need to right here. I'm going to use Rock, special Raisin, put it in this column, and I'm actually going to add Dr. Madlove. That might look really weird. You might be like, well, hex, no. Raisin needs a fire and a dark. Why would you add another dark? Well, because I don't want to add another Xiaolong here when I already have one on the field. I already have access to this card. Doubling up on it wouldn't really do much good, right? But what I can do is I can use Borger, put the fire back in hand, special it. Now I can use Raisin and destroy the Electromite in the zone, the zone across from it. So this is what I was talking about when I said that this deck is all about, like, managing your resources in terms of, like, what attributes you have access to in hand. But even more than just making sure you have the correct attributes, you still want to make sure that you're playing, like, a coherent game plan, right? That you're still having, like, just a sound strategy. Because, again, if I just add another Xiaolong, I'd have one awkwardly on the field. If I summon Borger, then I just have like 2 randomly in hand. But now, even if my opponent outs my Raisin here, on the next turn I can normal summon Madlove. Madlove adds Sacred Soul. Sacred Soul reveals Xiaolong, summon another Raisin from deck, and then, you know, we're good to go. We're already back into another gameplay cycle. So, like all control decks, Vanquish Soul does really want you to set up your future turns like that. So that is something you need to be mindful of. And I'm only talking so much pause because our opponent's about to concede. Yeah, anyway. Because they already normal summoned. I was about to pop the Electromite, and I doubt they had much extension left in the hand to follow up with. So, yeah. Again, with Pendulum decks, I really like keeping them off of these searches if possible. Because it's that much less likely they'll already have opened a scale they can already summon their monsters with which clearly, rather, here, our opponent's last 2 cards in hand were not a scale they could summon their monsters with. We have one more game left. It is that 5-turn duel. Let's wrap up with that one. Okay, this one I actually remember. It's only because of my opponent's icon, though. It's Eldritch, so it's going to be a nice little control mirror here for the last duel of the video. Wow, we won the coin flip a lot here, didn't we? Vanquish Soul, I will say, has a crazy win rate when you win the coin flip. Like, it is more tough to go second, a little bit more so than other decks, I think, with this one. Oh, so here I want to talk about this Prosperity. Well, I want to talk about it a little bit more, but yeah, Shifter, Imperm, Kurikara, Ash, Borger, Sacred Soul. I added Sacred Soul because, looking at my hand here, I'm really lacking, like, any amount of significant plays, right? Like, you might see Shifter and be like, oh, Shifter, power card, take. But here, it's like, I already have Ghost Spell for Graveyard Hate. I already have Imperm for more Disruption. I can't really win the game off Pantera by herself, so I want to grab Sacred Soul. I can reveal the Rise Heart, and then summon Raisin for there. Again, Rise Heart, just sitting in your hand to being a fire attribute. You would think that wouldn't be good enough, but it weirdly enough is in this deck, which is pretty cool. But shoot, I was saying something before that Prosperity. I don't remember what it was now. Oh well. I'm gonna use the Raisin for the Xiaolong, Raisin F to reveal, and then I can summon the Xiaolong. Again, I already have the other Rise Heart in hand, the other Fire, so we all remember where this is going, right? We can use the Rock F, add the Raisin back to hand, and then reveal both Fires, and then we can start adding stuff. And the fact that you can get these searches, like, oh my god, this is so ridiculous. Because, like, we got to search during our turn, right? And then we can just do it during our opponent's turn, too. Just immediately during the draw phase. I think it is right to do it during the draw phase as well, because that definitely plays around the droll. I mean, I guess you could wait if you wanted to see, if you wanted to set 5, set anything specific. But I think usually you'll probably already know what you want. So, here, before they end their main phase, I'm going to use both the effect of the Rock to summon Pantera from hand, as well as Borger's F. That way, during the end phase, I can use Pantera, pop the face down, and then Borger will reveal and inflict 15. Also, I want to point something out here. We popped a Solemn Judgment, which is probably one of, if not the best possible things we could have hit from 5 random back rows. And you can go back to older videos, even way back to, I think, my first Eldritch video, or I guess my one of 2 Eldritch videos I ever put out, but way back when Master Duel first started. I am an advocate for popping the second back row that they set, if they set like 4 or more, or like 3 or more. I think the second one is usually the most important one. And in my experience, my entirely subjective experience, that is usually correct. I could also 100% be confirmation bias, only looking for the times where it is actually meaningful. Like, I've not recorded this data in any meaningful way, I will say, so who knows? Could be entirely just confirmation bias. Also, I think I screwed up here. Yeah, wow. So, Jesus. I nerfed Raisin in my head, and for some reason I thought the Fire and Dark reveal only popped monsters. Because I was like, oh yeah, Raisin pops monsters like Pantera pops spell traps. That makes sense. But no, Raisin's just more broken than that. So if you're ever, during this whole game here, if you're ever wondering, like, Hex, why didn't you pop their back row with Raisin? That's why. During this duel, I didn't realize you could pop back row. I thought it was only monsters. But, I mean, here we're already doing a pretty efficient job of picking apart their back row. Nightmare Phoenix, Pantera. Here's another Pantera, forcing the call by. Bouncing for the Caesar Valius. Opponent has a Conquistador, but it's across from the Imperm, so I can just negate that way. And yeah, we can just battle, and then set the Dust Devil. I doubt we'll need it, but it's like, you know, might as well have it face down. Now, here, admittedly, they can just send the Conquistador for the Eldritch, but if nothing else, we do have the Ghost spells, so gonna make sure that the Golden Boy does not end up coming back. Elixir of Black Awakening here, setting the Conquistador. I think I also could have blown up some of these back rows if I had, like... Oh, no, never mind. I was going to say if I had summoned Raisin from Graveyard, but Rock doesn't do that. Rock adds from grave to hand and specials from hand, but is not special directly from the graveyard. That would be kind of obscene if it could do that, but... Alright. Scarlet Sanguine is going to get them another Eldritch here. Raisin. I actually don't have a... No, I do have a Dark Monster, so now you can yell at me for like, Hex, why didn't you Raisin and blow up their stuff here? I thought it was only monsters. But, I guess to be fair, they would have just Golden Land forever anyway. Caesar Valley is negated and destroyed, but it doesn't matter. I can literally just Sacred Your Soul for another Valius anyway. And then I'm going to Borger by bouncing Raisin. Here they summon both their trap monsters, which I'm like, okay, I guess this is just them kind of conceding at this point because does not seem like this will do much of anything to stop me. I get to burn yet again, which is mostly just a pretense to summon Xiaolong. I'm really just styling on my opponent at this point. And just garnering as many resources as I can. Oh yeah, I wanted to Snow Devil, because, I don't know, because I just wanted to. And then yeah, like I said, just far more than enough. I did pretty grossly style on them at the end there, but... Alright, that's going to do it for these games, and yeah, thank you so very much for watching them. Very excited to keep playing this deck. You will definitely expect to see more of it on the channel here in the future. I immediately had a blast with this first set of duels here. That's going to do it for now. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.